If you are a woman considering intermittent fasting for any reason, then hopefully this will help you decide if it's a good idea for you or not. I did intermittent fasting for a while and it was not good for me. And so I'm going to share my experience, share the reasons why, and then you can decide for yourself if it's a good idea for you or not. So some background. I used to have polycystic ovarian syndrome. I was able to reverse and stop my symptoms from lifestyle changes alone and coming off the birth control pill. I did this over a space of time, a long space of time, so it wasn't sudden, but I changed my lifestyle. I stopped drinking alcohol. I started exercising in line with my menstrual cycle, and I started eating in a very nutritious and balanced way, and balancing blood sugar and doing lots of things. And when I started intermittent fasting, the first few weeks I felt incredible. I had a lot more energy, and all the things that people say happened for me. So I was really loving the experience and the focus that I had. And then after around a month, I noticed my polycystic ovarian syndrome symptoms coming back. So this is acne. I noticed that I was kind of inflamed and gaining a bit of weight. One of the more horrible symptoms is you get random black hairs sprouting out in places. And so I started to notice this happen. And I thought, oh, okay, what's changed? And I'd been fasting. I'd been fasting for around 16 hours until around 10 a.m. every morning, maybe 11. And so I was only eating 2 meals a day. And I was also breaking my fast in a way that I now realize was not very good because it held a lot of sugar. I was having a protein smoothie with banana and things like that in it. And so the intermittent fasting for me brought back my polycystic ovarian symptoms. And I then researched and found out that this is very common, that if you have polycystic ovarian syndrome or any other hormonal imbalance as a woman, intermittent fasting is not advisable. So if this is you, then you can make your own decision, but based on my experience and the research I've looked into and hearing other people's experiences, it might not be a good idea. Another thing to consider, now when I started intermittent fasting, I had already had a peaceful relationship with food for a number of years, and that's why I felt safe in doing so. But previous to this, I had a binge eating disorder, I was bulimic, I would extreme diet and restrict. And I believe that intermittent fasting is just another way of controlling and having a disordered eating situation for many of us. This was not the case for me. It had been years, and as soon as I realized that it wasn't helping my hormones, I was fine to just go back to eating breakfast and not doing it. But I have worked with women before that used to have disordered eating, and intermittent fasting has just been another way of controlling their foods in an unhealthy way. So you can honestly ask yourself if this applies to you. If you've ever had an issue with eating, being overly restrictive or binge eating, overeating, and having any kind of disordered eating or secret eating habits. For example, I would only eat healthy food in front of people, and then I would hide a lot of the things I was eating because I felt ashamed. So if this resonates with you, then it might be that intermittent fasting isn't something you're ready for until you've overcome this, until you have a healthy relationship with food and your body, and then maybe some form of intermittent fasting could be good. So yeah, if you have struggled with out of control cravings or feeling powerless to food, it could be that intermittent fasting appeals to you, but it might not be what's best. And when we go for a long amount of time without food, we are naturally likely to crave it a lot more. And so what some people notice when I work with them is that they've been fasting and restricting for a period of time, and then their first meal that they break the fast goes quite well, but then subsequently within the eating window, they notice that they're craving so much and they eat massive portions or just keep eating as much as they can in that window, and then there's the cutoff. So there's a level of discipline required, and having that healthy relationship with food in your body allows you to just eat what's needed in that window. But if you don't, and you notice that you start having out of control cravings, then it's probably not best for you either. I mentioned in a previous video, but ghrelin is the hormone that tells us when we're hungry, and it might be that if you fasted for a long period of time, that hormone is working overdrive to tell you, hey, it's time to eat, it's time to eat. And the leptin signal that tells your brain that it's time to stop eating might not kick in because your body's in that survival mode of thinking you need a lot more food because you fasted for so long. So obviously this is a very individual choice as to whether intermittent fasting works for you or not, and we are all different, and it's good to consider all of these things to see if it is right for you or not. It is something that seems from research to work very well for men, but their hormonal cycles are very different from ours. So I think as women, we have to consider that. When we're fasting as well, our blood sugar drops, and we have to be mindful then of what we eat to break the fast. So eating anything sweet, like I was in the past, was really not a good idea, and it also helped bring back my polycystic ovarian symptoms. So yeah, thinking about how you break the fast would be having fiber in the form of vegetables and some protein and some complex carbohydrates, and not having anything that's sugary or going to spike, or drinking like a milky latte or something, for example. Even a smoothie is not a great idea if it has fruits in it, because the sugar will spike your blood. And it is normal to have sugar spikes, but it's just not how we want to break a fast, whether you're intermittent fasting or just eating normally. Also, like I said, if you have a history of being very controlling with your food, then from a psychological standpoint, intermittent fasting might not be a very good idea. And so here's what supported me and supported my clients that have experienced issues with food in the past. Having a cutoff of at least 2 hours before you're going to sleep, ideally 3, is better for digestion. It gives your body time to just focus on rest rather than digestion if you stop eating 2 to 3 hours before you plan to go to sleep. So say you eat your last thing at 7 p.m. and then breaking your fast 12 hours later at 7 a.m. This is what works. This is what works for people that have had any hormonal disruptions, a 12-hour fasting window, which I think a lot of us do without trying. That's what I do. I naturally don't eat very often after 7, and I naturally don't eat before 7, sometimes 7:30. And so I think this is just really easy to maintain, and we don't have to get stressed about counting the hours or feeling hungry. We're just going to naturally wake up feeling hungry, providing your cortisol levels aren't high, and you're naturally just going to want to stop eating before you go to bed, a few hours before you go to bed. And obviously if you have issues with emotional eating in the evening, that's another video that I've already posted that can help you with that. I have a lot of clients that I do a lot of work with that as well. So if that's something you can't stick to at the moment, then there is help for you there as well. But yeah, having this 12-hour eating window and 12-hour fasting window is super simple, and then just allowing yourself to eat a meal every 3 to 4 hours, and then that's it. And it's so easy, and this approach supports your metabolism. It's a balanced way to eat. It gives your body time to digest between each meal, and if you're giving yourself a balanced meal of protein and complex carbs and fibers, and then if you do eat something sweet, you're having it after you've had the meal so that it carries through the body, doesn't spike your blood sugar too much, then you're fine. You don't need to stress about intermittent fasting. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope it allows you to decide if intermittent fasting is a good idea for you or not. For me personally, it's not, but for men, it seems to work super well. And for women, the 12-hour window is what I have personally found and my clients have found to work best for them. So you can decide for yourself. Okay, bye-bye.